Yes, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm proud to be here this morning as we observe yet another milestone in public safety in the city of St. Louis. The first 3 months of 2025 saw the lowest crime numbers in more than 20 years. We've seen double-digit decreases in homicides, burglaries, robberies, auto thefts, and other crimes year to date. Residents, visitors, and businesses in St. Louis deserve to live in a safe city, and we continue to make our city safer each and every day. This is an all-hands-on-deck effort, and these positive numbers wouldn't be possible without the brave men and women of the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department, the Office of Violence Prevention, our community partners, and the residents who work with us to prevent crime and hold bad actors accountable. To those members of our community who have been a victim of crime, we hear you, and the work that we're doing day in and day out is all for you. While we can't go back in time to stop the crimes that have already happened, we are holding those who commit crime accountable and working in our communities to prevent crime before it happens. We're also working to continue improving our 911 response times, increase our clearance rate, and create opportunities in our community to give those who are at most risk better options than a life of crime. All of this work comes from partnerships in our community, and that's based on the theory that effective crime prevention only happens when we're all working together, rather than placing the entire burden of public safety on our police officers. Save Lives Now, a regional effort to reduce homicides and shootings in the region by over 20% over the next 3 years, is currently underway, and it's based on a combination of focused deterrence, cognitive behavioral theory, and using trusted messengers. These are the strategies that are helping us maintain and accelerate this progress. Soon, against the will of the voters, and against facts and common sense, a governor-appointed board will take control of the operations of the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department. And as a member of that board, I will fight every single day to continue the progress we've made to put the safety of our people first. I'm grateful to Chief Tracy and the men and women around this table and in this room today for their partnership as we continue to build a safer St. Louis. And now it's my pleasure to turn it over to Chief Tracy. Thank you all for coming, and God bless.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. And as we close out the first quarter, there is historic progress being made. And this could not be made without the men and women of this department and the community all working together and leveraging technology. But it also starts with the leadership in this room. And I just want to introduce you, everyone that's at this table for your information. So Mitch McCoy, as we all know, is our Director of Public Affairs. So I'm starting from my right, your left. And then you have Director Mary Beth Carr. She's the director of our laboratory that gets that evidence turned around quickly, that works on these cases. That's really important to keeping our community safe. You got Lieutenant Thomas Muldrew, who's the Commander of Investigative Services. You got Major Mike Mueller, who's specialized enforcement. Lieutenant Colonel Michael Sack, Bureau of Professional Standards. Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Cousins, Bureau of Support Operations. And then, as you know, Mayor Tashira Jones. And Lieutenant Colonel Eric Larson, Bureau of Crime Control Strategies. When we do our CompStat, he's in charge of getting those things together and keeping us on pace to take a look at these patterns and trends. Lieutenant Colonel Renee Kreisman, Bureau of Operations. Major Donnell Moore, North Patrol Division. Captain Kristen Stamper, Commander of District 4, representing Central Patrol Division. Thank you. And we have Major Christy Marks, South Patrol Division, and Connor Kerrigan, Director of Communications for the Mayor's Office. So with that, the Mayor's talked about some historic progress that we've made. And, you know, we do get measured on homicides. We do prioritize homicides in the city of St. Louis, as we do all Part 1 crimes, and then even to misdemeanor crimes that are happening, and quality of life crimes. But we do get measured on that. So when we're talking about some of the numbers that are up here, is that chart up there? Can we please go to the chart? As we talk about the numbers, you can see right now we're standing at the end of the first quarter, which was March 31st, but still today, as we're at April 2nd, in 2025, we had 23 murders ending at the first quarter, compared to 40 last year, compared to 2023, compared to 36 in 2023, 37 in 2022, and 43 in 2021. But if we take that back further, we started to go back to make sure that we could take a good look at these numbers, and I've asked Policy and Research, our director that's there, Jerry Baumgartner, Dr. Jerry Baumgartner, does these, looks at these numbers, make sure we vet them very well. We can go back to 1990. And going back to 1990, this is the second lowest murders in 35 years at this point. Still progress. We got to sustain this. We got to keep going. And that's on top of where the murders came down under the mayor's administration from the time 263 in 2020. It went down to 200 in 2021. 2022 was 200. And then 2023, we went to 160. Last year, went to 150, and we're getting out of the gate very well. And it's a lot of work that I'm going to get into what's helping this happen. And then if we go back, when I talked about the two lowest numbers, in 2005 and 2003, we had 21 homicides. Other than that, we're standing at 23. So second lowest, third lowest year in 35 years. And we haven't gone back, and we're going to try to look in the 80s and go back to 70s. We understand there's population change and everything else, so there's per capita that goes on. And I'm looking at you, Marco, when I say that and everything. Come on. I know that's where you're going to go. So, but rightfully so. Rightfully so. So when we take a look at that, so we haven't seen these numbers in some time. Our clearance rate, this is public trust. Clearance rate is at 100% right now. Although when it comes in, we have 11 clearances from 2025 murders, and then we have 12 clearances to prior years. You have to have a chance to work on them. And when homicides happen in November and December, they get counted as a clearance in this year. I don't make the rules. This is the FBI Uniform Crime Reporting Standards and how we do clearance rates. Every city does this to get measured against each other by the same set of rules, 100%. Now, cities, the average across the United States is about 50% in the last few years. So for our city to be in that, that's public trust, great work by our detectives, great front-end work by our officers on the scene, collecting the evidence, going to every shots fired call, trying to correlate those incidents and shell casings, and then also our crime analysts, our 911 operators that get us to those scenes, ShotSpotter that get us to those areas immediately, not only to collect evidence, but to render first aid to an individual that might be harmed by gun violence. We're trained in putting tourniquets on. We're trained in first aid, and we've seen that, which happened to Nathan Speece, that our officers not only do it for fellow officers, but we do that in the community when we respond to things where ShotSpotter can get us to that scene and to a location more specifically. I also like to attribute a lot of these solved cases to the great work by our homicide detectives. They are doing tremendous work. They're going out there, they're building trust with the communities, and how you build trust with the communities is going to every community meeting, knowing what their concerns are, listening to concerns at each specific area, and when we get together, we start to build that trust because we're meeting under calmness, not under crisis. And when we do that, we're actually developing that relationship, and then we're listening to their concerns. So for the first quarter also, when you go up, if we could put the crime report up there, that's our CompStat report. That's our internal CompStat report that goes down to misdemeanor thefts. It doesn't have the qualifier that you see as public CompStat. But I welcome people. I want everyone. I want the citizens. I want everyone, the news media. Go to our website, slmpd.org/stats. You can go on there for a lot of things, crime mapping, /crime mapping. A better informed St. Louis is a safer St. Louis, as the mayor says. We got to be as transparent as possible, put that information out. Overall, we're down 28% in overall crime compared to last year in the first quarter. But if you look at years past, when you go to year to date, 2023, 2022, and 2021, you're going to see that we're down 49%, 47%, and 37%. You could see that. You could read it right off the PowerPoint. And then the thing is, when you have a city where 90% of our homicides are by gunshot, then we have to go after the trigger pullers and the people that continue to do violence with firearms, obtained illegally or legally, and using them in a crime. And those are the things that we look at. So we have to go after the things with ShotSpotter, go do the correlation, go after the non-fatal shootings, go over to the shots fired incident. And if you take a look at those numbers, if you go to year to date, you can see we're down 39% in shooting incidents year to date, and we're down 36% in juvenile shooting incidents. But go back years past. How are we doing compared to years past? We go back to 2021, and you can see that we're down. One of the major things that we did, the mayor putting things together with youth services, Office of Violence Prevention, communication amongst departments, is that we looked at what was happening with our juveniles. We worked with CJC, the juvenile courts, and we tried to get an MOU in there to make sure that we're taking care of these kids when they're out there with firearms and they're out there late at night, and how we can address them to get the services that they need, give them things that they can do together so they're not out idle time getting themselves in trouble, but they can do things that are productive and safe. And we went down, you can see we're down 36%, 18% from last year, but from where we were a couple of years ago, you can see it's 63% and 65%. We had finished with a 50% reduction. So we take juvenile crime and making sure we keep our juveniles safe very seriously, as you can see by the numbers that are here. So what I also want to talk about, not only about the historic crime decreases, you take a look at all these other numbers in the Part 1 crimes. We don't forget about them. We don't forget about the quality of life issues. That's why you see misdemeanors down on the bottom. That's package thefts, that's breaking into cars. You look at all of them. We're down at every single category, including car thefts. We put out a plan. We meet in this room every Thursday. We meet with all these leaders to make sure we can look at things, patterns and trends that are happening, emerging. And you can see that on the 7 days when you look up at this report. And at the same time, you can break this down by patrol area. You can break it down by the 6 districts. You can break it down by the 88 neighborhoods. So a better informed St. Louis, you can get onto our crime mapping. And when you get on the crime mapping, you can go down and you can geofence and go back to 6 months, what's happening in your area, so you can be better informed than waiting for the police chief or our commanders or a lieutenant to give you this crime information. You don't have to wait till quarterly. So everything I'm giving you, you can get. You can get. But I'd like to be able to answer some of your questions and put things in context. The other thing, I just want to highlight a couple of things that happened in the last couple of months, and there's things that are happening every single day. But while we've seen historic decreases in homicides, which is a sign of progress, we've seen an uptick in robberies last week. So you look at the 7 days that we put up there, we want crime reported. Because if we don't see the crime reported, then we can't analyze it and try to identify the times, the areas, the people possibly doing it, video, doing license plate reader, trying to get to find out who are doing these things and try to get those patterns that are in place so we can address them and arrest the individuals that are doing these type of crimes. And so 5 people, including juveniles, were arrested this weekend. When you talk about robberies, you talk about carjackings. And so we were able to get those people arrested and make some pretty good arrests that we can slow down some of these carjackings and some of these robberies that are happening. They continue to go out there and give us leads of persons of interest in all these cases, and a lot of times the public is coming and giving us help. They're giving us help all the time, as in the case even with Nathan Spiess, that car that hit our suspect and hit our officer. If it was not for the public coming forward to give us information on that, we would not have had that person in custody and recovered that vehicle that was on its way outside the city in a tow truck. So we just want to make sure everybody knows that. So there's a wide range of strategies, and I also want to get into looking at gun seizures. Just an example that we have right now. We look at 53-year-old, I got to make sure it's up there, 53-year-old Derek Hogan. He's a violent felon that was at the center of a District 5 investigation. During a search warrant at his home, officers located these 10 firearms. Mr. Hogan has a long violent history of robbery and drugs. The gun seizure makes our community safer today. While we are discussing firearms, 530 firearms have been submitted to the crime labs so far this year. They get tested, they get analyzed, and we want to make sure if they come back to other crimes, or we can compare them where they've been used in other incidents or people that might have been in possession with them. And then when you look at your property crimes, you know, a big thing is car break-ins. Big thing is that's a quality of life crime when their cars get broken into. And if I go to the next suspect, we work on these things. Things are down, and that's why you're seeing these type of numbers, because of the work that the men and women are doing each and every day. And so we have a 22-year-old Eugene Jamison. This gentleman was responsible for dozens of car break-ins in the downtown area for months. Vigilant police work led to Jamison being caught in the act and arrested back in December of 2024. Throughout an investigation, detectives were able to link Jamison to numerous cases. And on March 5th, 2025, and I want to thank Circuit Attorney's Office, Gabe Gore, his team, that they see every single case where people are held accountable when we arrest them. where our officers are not doing the same job over and over again, arresting people that were taken under advisement and never charged. There's diversion programs. We can't get them into the diversion program unless we have the lever of them being charged to get them the help that they need. And if they go back out again and reoffend, it demoralizes the community, and it demoralizes our police officers having to arrest the same individuals. Well, this is one of those individuals. And after their case was brought to a grand jury, he was indicted on 57 charges, ranging from breaking into cars, stealing multiple firearms, and resisting arrests. And so firearms submitted to lab, I talked about it, 530 so far, and this is a testament of our officers' continued work to get the guns off the street that are harming our community, on top of doing all these other crimes and making sure we prioritize it, but we don't forget about the rest of them, because a good professional police department and great leadership and very good officers, they're going to get the job done, and they're doing it day in and day out. So, thank you.
With that, these were just a couple of individuals that were in custody that we think has helped reduce crime in the last quarter. Obviously, they're not the only two, because there are current investigations ongoing that we may not be able to discuss, but you'll be able to hear about it in the next quarterly report. With that being said, we will open it up to some questions.
How much of those first quarter numbers do you attribute to the severe weather that we saw throughout January and into February as well, where a lot more people are staying home, and you think that might correlate to fewer crimes happening?
Yeah. A lot of times when people do stay home, just like we saw during COVID, that interrelationship or interpersonal relationships, sometimes violence does go up. But we're also competing against numbers during COVID when you're taking a look, because we're going back to 2021 during those times. So you do have a comparative analysis, so I want to keep that in context. I've also looked at cities, you're all investigative reporters. Maybe crime is nationally is starting to come down, but not in every place. And even regionally, I think you should take a look, do some homework. Why is it that other places that have experienced the same weather are not experiencing this type of reduction in crime? So if we put that in perspective regionally, I can tell you, but I'm going to let you do your homework. Go look at it, and then make a determination that weather can affect crime, but it doesn't prevent crime. And that's why, going back for the last 4 years, you're taking a look at some of the things that were in some of the situation. There is cold weather. We're not comparing our quarterly report against July's report. We're going against the first 3 months of this year. So I think it's a lot of the good work, and I think if weather was able to do that, regionally, everybody else experienced the same weather, and they're not experiencing the crime reductions that we are.
Chief, you touched on it, but one of the ways that, as you know, criminologists will compare cities against national trends or cities against other cities is the per capita number. What would you say to skeptics or critics, those who are still looking at these numbers with a jaded eye, and saying, well, you're picking the whole number, it's like cherry picking data a little bit. What about the rate, the homicide rate,
Right.
number of murders per capita? It sounds like, does your department look at that rate too, and can you tell us where St. Louis ranks?
Right, Mark, and I knew you were going to go to that, see? I knew exactly where you were going to go, and rightfully so. So we do get a per capita, which is called 100,000. But the per capita stays similar for the last 10, 15 years, right? It's had a precipitous drop 50 years ago, right? Then into the 70s and into the 80s. But, and I could say in the last decade, it really hasn't gone down that much. But so you're looking at almost the same per capita number to use, the population, against the crime numbers. So that's why I only go back to 2021. And I'm looking at almost the same per capita. So where are we at? And listen, we all know St. Louis, like other cities, has its issues. We're not saying it's not. There's a lot more work to do here. There's challenges. But if you stay within the same per capita, we're staying within the same area. This is progress. That's what we want to see. We're not going to get it. It's going to take a while to get where everybody starts to feel safe. But isn't it promising to see under the same per capita of the last 4 years that you're seeing the population and crime starting to go down? So that's where it's tough to compete against years past. But what are we doing now? Are we going the right direction? Because if we were up right now, this would be the biggest story, rightfully so. You'd be talking about that we're up. So at least we have to, this is progress for everybody saying, what are we doing in St. Louis? And a lot of the things, the mayor has a holistic plan that she's put into place, supporting this chief and these officers, getting more officers back in. I mean, huge raise 2 years ago for these officers, and then a 7% raise a couple of months ago, and working right now with a collective bargaining agreement to get ready for July 1st, is trying to bring more officers in to get this job done. We're also down in offices to get this type of work done. So think about that from where we were a couple of years ago. So that's the amount of work. We're working smartly with a strategy in place and leveraging technology. I am telling you, you've seen me at the Board of Alders for the last couple of years, seeing the importance of the technology that we have and how it's helped us solve crime, and we can get back up the budget at strength, where it's not that we don't want to be there, we're trying to get there. We want to get back up the budget at strength, and I think we could do a better job. So we're even down per capita officers, but I'm comparing the notes of the last few years against per capita, pretty much the same.
Maybe a question for the mayor, but I don't know what conversations you might have had yet with Governor Kehoe about the transition to a board of commissioners. My understanding, talking to reporters and mayors in the past who have dealt with the board of commissioners, was that they would have a monthly meeting with all the commissioners and maybe some top brass and go through their reports in public. Do you expect that to be the case going forward, where these board meetings would be open to the public and that there would be some degree of transparency? What commitments do you have from the governor on that?
We have no commitments from the governor on anything. We've only received a letter stating that there is an interim person that we're supposed to be contacting during this transition.
And Mark, can I follow up on that? In years past, I've kind of looked at the way it was done in the state. They didn't have this type of technology that could be as transparent on a website that we actually redid. We invested, we made it more user-friendly. And so at that time, that's what I talk about. Better informed St. Louis is a safer St. Louis. So at that time, you had to wait for those monthly meetings. Right now, this report, you can get online. We want you to see it. We want our citizens to see it. We want everybody to take a look. We want the media. We want the academics to take a look at it, so when they can look under the hood, they can validate the work that we're doing, and there's safeguards in place to make sure we're putting accurate information out there. So the technology today, we got to leverage that, and that's what we're doing. I'm sure if we go back, when we go back to these meetings, how the board wants to set it up, where the mayor is part of that board, any way they want to do it, we could be having meetings instead of quarterly like we're doing now. If it's a monthly meeting, we're more than happy to go over these stats, and I think you get updates almost every week when necessary from our communications director, Mitch McCoy, and his team, and we bring certain leaders in those meetings to keep you as informed as possible.
Just to follow up, though, has the governor communicated directly with you, or has his office communicated directly with you or the police department?
We're starting to meet. When I say meet, I talked about it last week. The Attorney General had met with our team just to talk about, hey, as we start to move over representation, indemnification, and civil things, we have to work it out with our legal, their legal, and how we're going to move forward under this type of control. So we are having those conversations, and here's the most important thing I want people to know. We are not going to stop the way we're doing crime, because we don't want these type of changes to interrupt public safety. So I'm glad you asked that question, because I want to assure everyone we're going to continue to do the things that we're doing, that the mayor has allowed us to do, that's given us support. We're going to continue to do that. And then when we have a board where the mayor is part of that, we can continue these discussions the best way to go. But we want to continue. If you have progress like this, you want to make sure that the type of progress that's been happening under the mayor's administration, you kind of want to make sure that you can help keep going that direction. And I know that's where they want to go. They do not want to see crime go up. But we're going to have continued conversation. It's only a few days old that this has been signed, but I know there's going to be more conversations that's coming down the line. So, but as far as what it comes to policing in this city, and we're going to continue doing things what we're doing right now. And if we need to do other things, we're going to build off it. We're very flexible.
The suggestion was made that there would be an influx of returning officers. Have you seen any sort of data that suggests that any of that has happened already as far as submitting applications?
Well, here's the thing. In this transition period, we've been getting an uptick before the state control was even coming into effect. I've sworn in 33 officers that left our jurisdiction and went to other jurisdictions. I just swore in two yesterday or the day before. I got to get my days. And then before that, I swore 3 in 2 weeks ago. That brought us up to 33 people coming back to this department that left. This has been happening over the last couple of years. I think the economics that the mayor has put in place to make us competitive, people do want to work in St. Louis. They've come back. They also see that the arrests that they're making are now people are being held accountable with Circuit Attorney Gabe Gore's office. There's a lot of other things that came back, and a certain structure that we have in place that I think they're coming back to for a myriad of reasons, but I'm glad to see them coming back. And our academy classes, the application period, we went back and talked about that. It's been the largest that we've seen in years when we've made that push. So I think people are coming back into the profession, and you know what, if we're under state control and that has an effect on it, I'm hoping it has an effect that you just talked about, and we'll see that increase. But it's too early to tell if we've seen that increase at this time.
The governor's got 30 days, fewer than 30 days at this point, to name the transition director, and then fewer than 90 to name the board members. What kind of people or what kind of qualities are you looking for out of those two positions that
Well,
best help the department?
This could be for the mayor or I, because she is a board member, and what the mayor would like to see. And I think we're in lockstep of allowing us to do what we're doing now, that the mayor has given the support and then the autonomy for the police to go out and do it, taking politics out of policing when it comes to promotions, comes to transfers, it comes to discipline. The mayor is, I report back into the mayor. Mayor still holds me accountable, but she gives me the tools to go out and do that job. We couldn't be, have this type of success if you didn't have a mayor that supported the police department. And I've been in 3 others, so I can say that without thinking about it or talking anecdotally. I could talk realistically what this mayor has done. What I would love to see is to be able to do the same type of things with more personalities that are on it that support us as the mayor has.
Mayor, you used the word fight. I think you said you would fight for your policy agenda at this point. Can you give us any insight into what that would look like? Would you be, in your approach, are you approaching this as something of a legislator where you would be persuading other board members to adopt your views? How would that look?
Well, first off, I just want to make sure that they recognize the work that's already been done. We didn't ask for this. And so adding more people and adding another layer of bureaucracy on top of this hopefully won't be as confusing, because we've already done the hard work in bringing down crime by significant numbers across all categories. And I am hopeful that this new board, whoever they are, recognizes the hard work and also continues our existing partnerships. We have the Save Lives Now initiative that we're starting, or that has already started with our regional partners. We have work that's going on with our children, youth, and families, work that's going on with the CJCC, the Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee. All of our criminal justice system is operating on all cylinders, and we're hopeful that they will recognize this and not interfere.
And what hopes do you have, if any, that you or the public can shape the selection and appointment and confirmation process through that Senate committee and Senate vote?
I mean, we don't know who the appointees are even being considered at this point. So we'll just have to see who they consider and who they send forward to the Senate to be confirmed.
Chief Tracy, hi, hope you're taking the floor. Lucretia Windley from St. Louis Public Radio. Thank you, first of all, thank you guys for all of your hard work. I know that, turning crime stats is not easy. Turning any type of trend is not easy. And so just want to thank you guys first and foremost. I do have a question. Correct me if I'm wrong here, if I'm not understanding, but are you guys concerned at all that, in the first 3 months of this year, we're already like over half the amount of homicides compared to the amount that happened last year in the whole of 2024?
I'm sorry, you got to refer, that question, I'm not understanding. I want to answer it correctly.
So we're 3 months into 2025.
Mhm.
According to the chart that you guys had up for homicides, there were 23 homicides that happened so far in 2025, right?
Mhm.
Last year in 2024, you guys said that there were 40 homicides total. My question is, are you concerned at all that, with this being so early in the year, that we're already over half the amount, just a little over half the amount of homicides that occurred in all of 2024? Are you concerned that we're trending too high already, that, the numbers,
She's
that the
thinking
rate of
that
homicides
Yeah.
will actually
If-
decrease this year?
Yeah, if I could just put this in perspective.
Sean, can you bring the chart
If you
back
bring
up?
the chart back up, That number 40, we're actually 17 lower than we were last year at this time. So my concern always is, one's one too many. We want to make sure we try to prevent the next homicide, especially trying to go after the people that will use guns in the wrong way against another person. But we also want to make sure we solve them. And when we have these solve rates, that means that person that would take someone's life could potentially go out and take other people's lives. And we get them into custody, and we bring closure to the family. We're down 17 from where we were last year. We're down 13 from where we were in 2023. We're down 14 from where we were in 2022. And then we're down 20 from where we were in 2021. And we're down every year since 1990, with the exception of 2005 and 2003, which we were at 21. So I hope that clears it up with if it was confusing. I just want to make sure I put that in context, the bar graph. So we're actually down. And so my concern is always homicides, shootings, all crimes against persons, and then the quality life crimes. Prioritize them. But these numbers, they're promising. We need to sustain this. And I would like to not have another homicide the rest of the year. And if we can sustain that, we'd be in a really great place. But the bottom line is that, are we doing better than years past? What type of work are we doing? And are the strategies working? And we'll adapt our strategies when we start to see some upticks in some trends that are happening. So we are down, and that's why that's good news right now. But it's still a lot of work, as one of our favorite reporters, Mark Maxwell, talked about. Per capita is something that we always look at, and we want to make sure that we're doing that and looking at the per capita, because that compares us against other cities. But I try not to compare ourselves against other cities. I want to compare us against ourselves. When we compare against, are we getting better? We can't do anything. Population, sometimes it's a census every 10 years, so you might be in that area. We might go up, we might go down. But where are we at right now? Are we going down? And that's what we're seeing right now. That's promising. And I want to make sure that we continue the things in place to continue to see that downward trend. Everybody, this city will be better for it. We'll all be better for it.
That was helpful.
Lucretia, to be clear, these numbers are just the first quarter of each year. So that 40 is just the first 3 months of 2024.
So thank you for your question on that.
Thank you.
Chief, part of the state control legislation increases the amount of money the city puts towards the department's budget. Where would the extra money go? Where needs more money?
So Austin, that's some of the things that we have to take a look at as the mayor being a board member, looking at the budget. I know where the percentage of budget is now, and you have pension obligations and also medical benefits that are in it. We're trying to iron some of those things out, and this is what the transition period is about, to figure those things out. But I know things have been codified in the legislature of about a certain percentage, and I know it goes up to, I think, 25% of the overall city's budget in 2 years, 2 or 3 years. So where is that other money can go?
And where's it going to come from?
And where is it going to come from is the other. The mayor is thinking about that. Where is it going to come from, and where does it have to come from? I think we could there's some things that we also use out of the general fund, and I think that we pull from city services on top of our budget to fix things or our infrastructure as well. So not everything in our budget, when there's emergency things that come out, it won't be coming out of the budget, but we'll actually have that money on hand. And so I've testified for local control. That's all I know. I know how to do crime. I know how to do this type of thing in strategies, but the support services and I know how to do budgets, but figuring out what money and how it is, I'd have to come back to that question, Austin, and I'd have a clearer response for you. It wouldn't be fair for me to speculate, because I've already testified. I've never been under state control. I'm going to figure these things out and work together with the mayor and work together with the board and to see how we can get through these things. But I'm sure that's the conversation of the balance I think they had in mind. When they put the board, they also have the mayor that's sitting on it to talk about these things and where the money's going to come from and how it can be used best.
Right, but let's say say you just had more money. And all things being equal, all else being equal, where could use more money? More officers, more tech?
Can I add?
Sure.
If you don't mind. There's conversations now in the chief's office related to things that we are going to have to pick up the bill on, related to HR, related to hiring people, related to even a job portal process. How does that look? We are going to have to hire individuals in HR, including in budget and finance. So all of that, we're having to do an internal review right now, because there are certain aspects of city government that the city does on behalf of the police department, like the department personnel, like legal services. Those are conversations now because that's going to have to be absorbed somehow.
And even when you talk, let's get right down to the mechanics that are taking care of our fleet services. You know, there's a lot of cars. We have a lot of things that go on to maintain our fleet, to do a lot of things. That's the city's been picking up a lot of that. So we're in conversations like Mitch McCoy talked about, that we're going through this, and I'm going to have those continued conversations that you asked about. How are we having those conversations? They're happening right now. They're happening through proxy. There's not direct. There are people that are better informed. They're boots on the ground to start figuring these things out. And, you know, and as we have more information, we'll be as transparent as we go through this with the mayor and myself, her administration, what we're doing within the police department. But we are having those conversations, but I want to continue to assure, we're going to continue to do the crime, we're doing it. And then when the board and the mayor is with the board in place, some of those things, Austin, we can figure out. But there's a lot of things being picked up on the city's tab that, with that additional money, those things and those services are going to be directly coming out of the budget. That's at 23%, I think, right now.
Yeah, I've got it. It just doesn't sound, I mean, it's been pitched in the legislature and in Jefferson City as a positive. We're going to give more money to the police to do their jobs. It doesn't sound like you see it that way at this point.
No, I didn't say I didn't see it that way. So don't put words in my mouth, Austin. That's not right.
You don't see it.
That's not right, Austin. I didn't see it that way. I've been a proponent with the mayor for raises. She gave the highest raise. When we came through the door, the mayor actually went and signed and did that. She went and gave a raise 7%. I sit at the table. So please don't say that I'm not a proponent for higher money for our officers.
I'm not saying that.
You did say that,
No, I'm
Austin.
saying in terms of the state control bill, they said this is going to be great, and it seems like you're saying it's more complicated.
Well, it is more complicated. What's left over in the budget, and you know what, that's up to the Board of Commissioners, what type of raises, and you know what, they got to be fiscally responsible, as well as to the taxpayers. So this is something that, if you take a look at other places that are under state control, are they the highest paid police officers in the state? They're not.
Right.
They're not. So they have to be fiscally responsible. If there's an opportunity, the mayor right now is taking a look at the collective bargaining agreement, and her team, and operations director, and also the finance director. We're at the table already talking about these things, but we have to be fiscally responsible. And I'm sure when the board's in place, what the mayor will be part of, they got to take a look at the totality of the budget and the ability to pay with raises. If there's money to give raises, I'm sure that'll be looked at. But to say that I didn't mention it and I don't want to give raises, that's far from the truth. How do I recruit officers if we can't be competitive? How do I retain officers if I can't be competitive? And the mayor recognized this a couple of years ago, got them back to the table when they were at an impasse for several years, and under her leadership, it started giving those raises that these officers deserved. And we thank the mayor for that.
I understand there are deadlines in this tight timeline of transition here, but we're talking about this transition as though it were an inevitability. Do you still intend to sue? Can you beat this thing in court?
We are still evaluating all of our legal options.
I just want to, in closing here, remind everyone, and if you guys have additional questions, slnp.org/stats. I'm sure it's a web page you guys have become familiar with. It's updated weekly, citywide, by district, and then also by neighborhood. But there's also another page, slnp.org/homicide, where all the homicides are posted there. But if you click on the 2025 tab, it will go into the clearance rate, and we'll dive deeper with the chief. And also we'll go into relationship known individuals, suspects, victims, etc. It's a great resource that will help you guys. So thank you guys very much for coming
Thank you,
out,
everyone.
and we will see you in July.
All right. Hey, Austin, did you break that table? Did you break that table?